You can be sure he's not going to let an unruly mob of criminals shove him out of office.
I don't see how...
This riot has done a lot of damage. It's caused a lot of unwelcome publicity.
But surely he can see that more repression could cause even more serious trouble.
The only thing he can see is that your administration leaves a great deal to be desired.
Very well. But I am not so sure the staff will stand for it.
Well, any officer who wishes to seek alternative employment is free to do so. In the meantime, they will obey orders.
Could you tell His Worship why you permitted the defendant to stay rent-free in your house?
Well, I thought she deserved a chance, being out in the community after so many years. No harm to go to. Besides, my father would have liked it. He'd shown a lot of sympathy to Mrs. Birdsworth.
And did Mrs. Birdsworth show her gratitude towards your generosity?
Oh, yes, indeed. She abused me right on the front doorstep. Accused me of harassing her.
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey.
Who do you think was harassing Mrs. Birdsworth?
Oh, I don't think anyone was. I think it was all in her imagination.
And where were you when Mrs. Birdsworth told you of this harassment?
I've already told you on the front doorstep.
Ah, yes, the doorstep. I believe we have another witness to substantiate that. What details did the defendant give you of this harassment?
What are you getting at?
That is for this court to decide, Mr. Humphrey. Please just answer the question.
Well, she rambles on a lot. She was very vague, you know. She said things about a pot plant being moved, someone around the house at night, that sort of thing.
I see. And what do you intend to do with the property, Mr. Humphrey?
I think that's my business.
It is the court's business, Mr. Humphrey.
I have no plans for the property.
Is that why you submitted an application to the local council for rezoning to permit the construction of villa units?
Your Worship, this is intolerable. I'm the one being put on trial now.
You miserable bastard! Trying to drive me crazy so you could tear down Sid's lovely house. You mongrel!
Mrs. Birdsworth.
Well, he is. Look at him. Trying to drive poor old William crazy so that he can make a quib. He ought to be the one that's locked away.
Please.
Well...
Sit down, Mrs. Birdsworth.
I was right. And I'm glad you didn't get your rotten paws on Sid's house.
It's getting rather late. I propose adjourning for the day. Mr. Oliver, you will please instruct your client in the correct decorum for my court.
I shall, Your Worship.
Mr. Fletcher. Now, I'll expect your full cooperation when the security measures are implemented.
Yes, of course.
Mrs. Davidson has the full details?
Yes, Mr. Douglas. I noticed that the applications are open for the governorship of Beechmont.
I'm glad somebody reads the Gazette.
I was considering applying.
And?
Well, I was wondering if you'd think it's worth my while.
Well, it's hardly my place to advise you on anything like that. Well, all applications will be judged individually on their merit. And with your position and record, of course it's worth your while.
Well, thank you.
Some of your work has shown a distinct improvement of late. And besides, it is only a youth remand centre.
Thanks very much. Ah, Lizzie, stand over there.
Yeah, I know.
How'd you go today?
Oh, good. I don't know, Mr. Fletcher. I couldn't keep my big mouth shut when I should have.
Oh, never mind. It's not over yet, you know.
Do you reckon? I've got an awful feeling it's all over by the shouting.
Ah, Officer Powell, would you and Officer Ward take Lizzie back to her cell, please?
Come on, Birdsworth.
Mrs. Powell, may I speak to you, please?
What do you want?
I want to arrange a visit. May I make my weekly phone call, please?
No, you may not.
But regulations allow us one phone call each week.
As a privilege. Since all privileges have been cancelled, even for you. The answer's still no.
But you could arrange the visit.
How many times do you have to be told?
I have to see my little boy, please. I'm desperate.
Sorry, forget it, Peterson. Soft soap won't wash on me. Come on, inside.
Bloody old po-face. Fancy stopping a mother from seeing her own kid. Poor little nipper. Only 3. He's not much of a security risk.
No. They don't seem very human, do they?
Huh. Especially that bloody pal. You should have seen the way she carried on in court today. Trying to have a go at me. But my barrister soon put her in her place.
How's the trial going?
Oh, I don't know. You need some sort of a degree to understand all that legal mumbo-jumbo. I should get off, but I reckon I might have mucked up my chances now. What's been happening around here?
Oh, Sandy's getting most of the blame for the riot. She's in solitary. They took her out last night.
Yeah, I like that, the rotten buggers. She's not a bad kid, that little Sandy. She looks out for her friends. Still, I'm not surprised.
Lizzie, you've been here a long time. Tell me, what do you think will happen now?
Oh, I reckon it'll get worse before it gets better. They'll probably wait till somebody gets killed before they do anything. God, I remember when Bea was running this place. She didn't let the screws get away with much then. Poor old Bea. She could be dead and none of us would be any the wiser.
And how are we tonight?
We are well and truly bloody bored. The only exciting thing that ever happens around here is when some young doctor looks at my scar and nods a lot.
You need the rest.
Like I need a brain transplant. Hey, have you heard any more about Wentworth? There's been no mention since the cops raided the place, not even on the radio.
Yeah, there's not much in the paper either.
Terrific. Well, I suppose I can always amuse myself with the fashion pages and try and work out what's going to be all the rage and the can this year. Oh, listen to me. Anyway, I think I like the place.
What's it like in there?
Well, Wentworth?
Yeah.
Not much better than this dump. Boredom's the biggest problem. But at least in there you got some chance of getting away with something. Not like in here, you can't even sneeze out of turn.
It's not that bad.
Well, not for you, maybe. But I've got Laughing Girl over there in the doorway for company. Now, she's quite a conversationalist. Can get a rise out of her with a rocket. Could I, Mrs. Plod? See what I mean?
Never mind. The doctors are quite pleased with you.
Oh, I got a gold star for good behaviour, did I?
Well, it looks like you might be going home in a couple of days.
Oh, home? Yeah, well... At least I'll be able to find out what's going on for myself, won't I?
Right. Janet, what are you doing here this time of night?
Well, I can't sleep, Jim. I'm still having nightmares.
How could you be having nightmares if you're not asleep?
You know what I mean.
Sorry.
Well, do I have to stand out here all night?
Of course. Come in.
I will try to be brief, Your Worship. First, we have the question of motive, which my learned colleague has skimmed briefly over, perhaps because he could find none. I certainly couldn't. Quite the reverse. We have heard of possible motives for both the complainant and the neighbour, Mrs. Powell, both witnesses for the prosecution.
Objection.
I won't pursue the point, Your Worship.
Proceed, Mr. Oliver.
We also have the corroborating evidence of Mrs. Morris, suggesting the presence of a person or persons in the vicinity of the house at the time.
I must object, Your Worship. My learned colleague is referring to hearsay evidence.
I believe I ruled accordingly during the evidence of Mrs. Morris.